Hello and welcome. My name is Melissa Jeanette Shea. I'm one of the principals here at MBH, and I'm here with my good friend and CEO, Callum Laing. And welcome, Callum.
Thank you, Melissa.
Very cool. So over the years, you've had a small business yourself, right? And you found that in the marketplace, small businesses had some challenges. And so can you share with our audience today, what are some of the business challenges for small businesses?
Yeah, so look, I think there's a lot of attention paid to startups and there's a lot of information about how to start a business. But once you become a successful small business, there are a huge amount of challenges. And yeah, most small business owners have kind of run a marathon and gone through a lot of peaks and troughs. And I think yeah, at every stage, you're coming across new challenges, and as entrepreneurs, we're always optimistic. So we're always thinking things will get better when we get bigger. And actually, what happens is the challenges just get bigger as you get big, as you grow your business. So, yeah, there's a lot of different challenges, and I think what we're trying to do at MBH is solve a couple of specific ones. One being that as a small business, it's actually quite difficult to scale beyond a certain level. So you can grow to a good-sized small business, but you're held back by the fact that big companies don't like giving big contracts to small businesses. So it's procurement best practice not to give a big contract to a small business. And then the other one is around the value creation that you as the business owner have created. So if you've created a multi-million-dollar business, you're clearly creating a huge amount of value in the world. You're creating value for your clients, for your team, for the whole ecosystem of suppliers and partners. But typically there's only one person that doesn't get to extract a commensurate amount of value from the business, and that's you, the owner.
Right.
So MBH is really about kind of solving those two key problems for small businesses.
As a small business owner myself, I felt those same challenges. Like you almost get stale, and we're addicted to growth, and we're addicted to new adventures. And so once you get your company to a stable level, you kind of plateau, and either, like you said, your only choices are really to sell or pass it on, right? And oftentimes when you pass it on, it doesn't keep the legacy. So you came up with a really great model, the Agglomeration Model. So could you share what the Agglomeration Model of MBH solves for small businesses?
Yeah, so really it was kind of dealing with problems that I'd had as a small business that you faced, that my peers were facing. And myself and my business partner, Jeremy, came up with this concept which sort of evolved over the last 7 years, which is to, in a nutshell, we've created a publicly listed holding company exclusively for the use of good, well-run, profitable small businesses. Right. They come into our holding company, they swap their private equity for public equity, but the key thing is they retain full control over their business, because as you know, as a business owner, we are not very good at being told what to do,
No, we're not.
especially when it comes to our business. So
yeah.
Keeping that control is key. So the businesses in our group, it's their brands, it's their hiring and firing, it's their culture. But now when they go and pitch for business, they're part of a multinational global PLC. When it comes to attracting and retaining good key staff, they've got stock options. If they want to do acquisitions, they've got the mechanisms to do that. So it's really about trying to solve those problems that small businesses face when they try to scale.
Yeah, for me, I saw it firsthand, that we could actually grow again, and then you learn all new things. Like once you become publicly listed, there's new challenges, but new excitement, because the growth is back, right? So we could acquire new companies. I know that MBH, how many years is MBH in existence now?
So, I mean, MBH as a publicly listed company is only about 3.5 years old, but it's interesting because we've got 28 companies in the group. So that's across 8 different industry verticals, 6 different countries. And yet the average age of the companies in the group is about 23 years old. So we've got companies much older than that, that sort of second generation businesses. So these are well established businesses. We're not sort of betting on startups. These are founders like yourself that have decades of experience, that probably had a few bloody noses along the way,
Couple of
and
scrapes.
learnt the lessons. But that also means that when there are challenges thrown at us, like global pandemics,
Yeah.
people know how to respond, and they have the maturity and the depth of experience to get through those challenges.
Yeah, and that was really nice, even coming on during COVID. Look at the 28 companies that are on there. Not one of them is failing, right?
No.
Everyone is still there. And not only that, but we saw tremendous growth even during COVID. Looking at the sectors of, say, the educational vehicle and the taxi
Yeah,
service.
travel,
It
leisure,
was
yeah.
travel and leisure went really well. So they were able to do acquisitions even during a global pandemic.
Yeah.
So what do you predict for the future of MBH and small businesses?
So, look, I think MBH's core reason for being is to provide a better platform for small businesses to grow. And I think as long as we continue to do that, we'll continue to attract small businesses that realize that they can perform better as part of a group like that. And the nice thing is, with every company that we add typically another 20 or 30 years of entrepreneurial problem solving knowledge, a whole new network of clients and companies. And so the level of resources that we have that companies can tap into now, tapping into different countries if they want to do global expansion, tapping into the expertise about doing M&A or how to scale beyond certain levels. There's always going to be companies a little bit ahead of you and companies a little bit behind that you can share with and learn from. So yeah, it's even across different industry verticals, there's so much that small businesses have in common.
Right.
That sharing of best practice, as you know yourself, like over the last couple of days, just learning what works, what doesn't work, and yeah, it's fascinating, and great stories already of companies that are collaborating with each other, seconding staff across to get different experiences, and joint venturing on different partnerships, and it's great. And yeah, now I don't know half of the things
Half the
that
stories,
are going
yeah.
on.
We know them now.
Yeah.
But yeah, even at this conference today that we had in, at the MBH principals, right? We had a breakout session, and I got to work with Diana, who's the principal of Logistica. And she has a product that could easily be used in the United States. And so now we're collaborating on that to do an online platform that could be sold, which couldn't be done here because the government pays for it. In the US, it's private sector. So here's a way of just collaborating over two businesses and yet increasing the value of MBH in itself. So
yeah, and I think one of our sort of expectations of businesses coming in is this idea of expansion. And it's not just about business expansion, which is obviously something that's key, but it's also about the principle, the founder being able to expand their network, their knowledge, and yeah, I think we've seen that over the last couple of days.
yeah,
How many opportunities there are.
Well, there's also a very big difference between a small business owner and then going on a publicly traded company, right? Even just best practices with regards to accounting and how you're reporting. And I find the accountability piece of it very helpful for me, because now I can navigate better pitfalls for the company. And you hit on a point that I think needs to be stressed a little more, is that we're given complete autonomy to run our businesses as we see fit. There's no, hey, you better off doing it this way or doing it that way. You let the principals within ourselves figure out, hey, maybe we're sharing ideas, not enforcing ideas, right? And I think that natural growth is something very unique to MBH.
It is, and it kind of goes against conventional business wisdom, which is sort of bigger is better, and market efficiencies and all of those things. But with that comes as we've seen with the environment and with many other examples, that causes a lot of problems. And actually, yes, you can argue small businesses have their own characteristics and their own inefficiencies, but actually that's fantastic, and that's what makes the model as a whole sustainable, because it's kind of the way nature works. You have those, and our idea is basically to provide an environment where these multi-decade-old companies, if they continue to perform, they can continue to perform for decades more to come. So, I mean, you touched on this idea of legacy, and actually for the business owners that join us, they've been supporting their teams often for decades, their local communities for decades. And the idea of kind of a traditional sale to private equity, for example, that would saddle the company with debt and put in a couple of young MBAs to sort of rip the whole heart and soul out of the business, it's just not what our market is looking for. So this really allows them to keep doing what they're doing in their own unique way, which is clearly working.
Right.
And so,
Why
yeah.
fix something that's already working, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what's interesting too, since I came on MBH, it was really nice for me. I was raising capital prior to for my own company, and it's very hard for women-owned businesses to get access to that kind of capital or to be taken seriously in their businesses. And we also have some other challenges, because as soon as we get our businesses going, oftentimes we have family obligations, we give birth or something like that, and so those interferences don't allow. But MBH business model allows not only to come onto the platform and see women leadership, right? Like Vicky is on as a principal, amazing. So that's another thing I found very attractive about being on MBH platform. And I don't know if you had any comments on the uniqueness of what you see happening in the small business world with regards to the women.
Yeah, look, for us, it just seemed like a natural thing to do. Is, if you're going to have a board,
Right.
half our population is female, why wouldn't half the board be female?
Right.
We're not there yet. I'd love to get us to the point where 50% of the business owners in the group were female. I think we're about 30% at the moment. But we've run things like a female leadership program to reach out to more women. Yeah, look, I mean, a lot of this stuff, it's frustrating that we're still having these conversations in 2022.
Right, yeah.
It's crazy, but we've already got such incredible female leaders in the group that I think it will consistently encourage more female leadership in because they see role
It's
models.
possible.
And so yeah, hopefully that gets easier rather than harder moving forward.
And something else I found unique about MBH was the commitment to ESG, right? So that they're really concerned about the environmental impact and the social impact the group has. So maybe you could share some enlightenment on what MBH is doing on that.
Yeah, so I mean, the interesting thing that I find is, as an entrepreneur myself, entrepreneurs and small business owners have been very aware of this for decades. It's been called different things over, social entrepreneurship and various other things. ESG is very much the buzzword within the finance community right now, but small businesses have been doing this because it's the right thing to do for decades. They've been doing it because their employees demand it, because their clients demand it, not because it's the current buzz phrase in finance. So I think that the challenge or the opportunity is to try and articulate what those small businesses are doing in a way that the wider community can see it. And that is quite difficult, because I think there is a natural cynicism towards big corporates greenwashing. So we've deliberately worked with third parties that can give us appraisals, and we had the ESG 5-star award, and they have worked with 22,000 companies, and we were in the top 1% of those companies in terms of how we do that, and that's because of people like Vicky that have been driving this so hard. So yeah, it does feel weird because when we talk about it with small business owners, it's not a new thing. It's just
not.
how you articulate that to the outside world.
To the community. You know, it's all small businesses, right? So we impact local communities, the economic part, but you're right. It's just because it's a buzzword now, every small business, I know I work with the homelessness, right? That's not something we, broadcast like, look at me, it's just something we innately do. We don't need a government telling us. It's just the right thing to do. And it just comes back and loads of benefits. So it's also nice to see other principals naturally do this because that's part of it. I didn't know we won the award, so that's really exciting too.
Well, and the other thing is that it tends to be the thing we talk about the least. So we were just talking about Kevin from 3K Engineering. They have sponsored a local football team for disadvantaged children. Nobody knew about these things.
Yeah.
So this is why these events are so cool, because you start to hear about so many of these little projects that are going on.
Yeah, and they affect people's lives, the real people's lives. It's not just handing out in a socialistic manner, it's actually impacting lives. So, well, thank you so much for joining us on explaining a little bit how small businesses can have other options other than just liquidating their business, and how they can have a true plan to succeed, have succession and legacy with something they put their heart and soul into. And so, personally, I'm very grateful for it because this week has been amazing on the conference and just the impact we can continue to make. And I look forward to seeing more businesses here in MBH.
Thank you for sharing the stories. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining us today. My name is Melissa Shea, and I'm glad that Callum could join us today to share a little bit more insights on the benefits of being part of MBH.